This is our traditional beer battered pollock with triple cooked chips. So I've got some beautiful agria potatoes, skin on. These have just been washed. There's probably around a 10 mil I'm gonna go for. I'm leaving the skin on just because we don't really peel our potatoes for anything we do here in the restaurant. We kind of just leave it on. I think it adds a nice little texture. When you're cutting the potatoes, you're just trying to get as uniform size as you can, because obviously otherwise some of the potatoes are going to overcook massively. Trying to get them as similar in size as you can. If they're a little bit different, doesn't really matter. So going for these nice big chunky chips. As you can see, the starch is already coming out in the water. Just going to basically wash them off until the water runs clear. So here you go. Got my potato trimmings there. So we just roast this off with carrots trimmings, onions trimmings, and then that gives us the base for our veg gravy that we use for Sunday roast. Right, next up, got a little bit of sugar and salt. I'm just going to make a quick cure to firm up our fish slightly. 30% sugar ratio to salt. Zest in a lemon and a lime. Give that a little mix together. You can put in some spices in there, you can put in bergamot, you can put a few other bits in that. So just going to set that aside now while I go back to my chip. So the water's running clear now. Fine salt, quite a lot because you want to season the potato nicely throughout. Just cover the potatoes. And then we're going to bring that up to the boil. What we're trying to do with the triple cook process is we're going to boil them first, then we're going to blanch them in oil, and then we're going to crisp them up in oil as well. So between each stage of the process, you're going to chill them down fully. So salt's in, the water's in, going to bring it to the boil. Once this comes up to the boil, we're then going to stir it hard for the first few minutes. The inside will still be completely hard, and it's obviously going to soften from the outside in. We're trying to rough up the edges, but still keep the potato intact in those nice chip shapes. Okay, next up we're going to put the fish. Pretty much the same on most fish. You've got the thicker side of the fish. Here you've got this thinner bit. We call that the belly. We're just going to cook them as separate pieces. Otherwise you'll find that this little piece here is going to massively overcook while you wait for the thicker side. So I'm just going to cut down the bloodline. And you can either do skin on, skin off. We can do one of each just for reference. So here you've got the skin off on the loin and you've got the skin on the belly, just so you can do two different types. Usually, I mean, if you're buying fish from your fishmonger, you'll be able to ask him for whatever. Usually be able to specify what size you want, whether you want large fillets, small fillets. They'll be able to skin it for you. So the water's starting to come to the boil now. So I keep stirring it. This first sort of 2 or 3 minutes doesn't really matter too much because it's just coming up to temperature. The curing the fish is just going to, one, it's going to help to season the fish a little bit. It's going to impart some of that beautiful citrus flavour in there. A little bit of sugar is going to add a tiny bit of sweetness. It's also going to firm up the fish slightly. Now pollock is quite a nice firm fish anyway. If you're doing something like cod belly or haddock or something like that, it helps to firm it up a little bit. It just makes it a little bit more premium. These bigger ones I'll probably give about 20 minutes, 25 minutes, and the smaller ones probably about 10 to 15 minutes. But now it's sort of like the next 5 to 10 minutes is a critical stage where we want to batter them around as much as we can to try and break up the edges. Okay, next we're going to make the beer batter. So in here I've got a little bit of plain flour, rice flour, baking powder, a little bit of turmeric just for colour, and Trisol. 250 ml of beer, sparkling water as well, 200 ml. Just mixing in my wet liquid into my dry. Actually just bringing in the flour from the outside bit by bit. So a really good mix. Right, back to the chips. So now the water's boiling. You can just turn it down to a slight simmer. And they're probably going to simmer for about 10 to 15 minutes now. Every 2 minutes, giving them a really good bash around. Slowly start to see it there, a bit like you would with your roast potatoes, start to break up on the side. Stir it around, almost flop them over. Potatoes are getting there now. You see as you lift it up slightly, the edges are breaking, some of them are breaking in half. Probably another couple of minutes still on those. So just wash off the cure. And then we're just going to rinse it off so there's no residual salt on there for 5 minutes. Because obviously if you just brushed it off, the salt would still be on the fish and it would just carry on curing. I'm going to leave these bigger ones for another 10 minutes. Okay, next we're going to take the chips out. Pop those onto a tray, put them into your fridge till they're completely cold. Big bits of fish are ready to come out. Now I've got a beautiful, nice, firm fish. While our chips are cooling down, we can put our oil in our pan and we're going to bring it up to 140 for the first blanch of the potato. Nice and cold. They're fully cooked all the way through. The chilling down process is really essential because it helps to firm it up. So next up, we're going to take these and we're going to pop them into oil at 140 degrees. We're just going to set the outside, start to lightly caramelize, and then we'll take them out again, chill them down, and then they'll be ready for their final crisp up. So my chips are now in. I want to try and keep this around 140 degrees. Obviously it's a little bit trickier when you're doing it at home. Don't really move the pan initially. Let the outside skin of the potato set before you start moving it around. So if you had a deep fat fryer, you just shake the basket, because if I start mashing it around too much, again, I'm just going to break up the potato even further. So these have been in now for about 12 to 14 minutes. Now we're just going to chill these down. I'm going to put them back onto my rack with the rest of them. And then we're going to chill them down, and then they'll be ready to re-crisp up a little bit later on. I'm going to chill those down so they're cold, and in the meantime I can get my fish ready, and then the chips will take just another 2 or 3 minutes when the oil's really hot. So we're going to bring our oil up to 180 for the fish. So I've got my fish here, which I've just dried off. I've got a little bit of seasoned flour, and I've got my batter here. So we're going to drop them into the oil one by one. I'm going to start with the biggest one. I'm going to drop that in 2 minutes before the other two, so they all come out at the same time. So we've got the bigger loin piece here, and then we've got the 2 belly pieces, just for context. So the belly bits have the skin on, and the loin bit doesn't. So dust off the flour, really, really thin coating. So I'm going to mix it around the batter. And then let the excess batter drip off. And then into the oil. I just hold it up until the batter lightly gets a crust on it, and then drop it in. If you drop it all in at the beginning, sometimes it can stick to the bottom of the pan. And then just going to dribble a little bit of batter over the top to get crispy edges on it. Then I'm going to go with my other 2. Just when I put the ones with the skin on, I'm just going to run the skin off the back, so there's a thinner layer of batter on the skin, meaning that the skin will crisp up a little bit in the oil. So just going to try and maintain that oil at that temperature. So we're looking for that core temperature of around 170, 180. I'm just going to take out some of these beautiful scraps. They're beautiful. We're going to garnish those on the dish when we do it up. Just going to have a look at the fish, see how it's getting on. Looking good. Okay, so the fish is about 1 minute off. So I'm just going to get my chips now so they're ready to go in as soon as the fish comes out. So fish is coming out, looking good, nice and crispy. So next up, we're going to let that drain off a little bit before we season it. Just before we serve it, we're going to check the temperature. Pollock probably around mid to high 40s internal temperature, but you just want to make sure it's not under more than anything, but it should be absolutely fine. We're looking for 180 minimum, probably 190 for the chips. We're going to go in with my chips, so it's going to season my fish. Season it while it's hot, so the salt kind of sticks to the slightly oily skin. So these have been in now for about 1.5 minutes, probably got another minute just to finish them off. So looking for nice dark edges, super crisp, nice bit of potato inside. I'm going to take those out onto my paper to drain. I'm going to give them a good dry off. Just going to season these very lightly with a bit of our kombu seasoning. Again, while it's nice and hot. At home you can use salt. Just going to go old fish and chip style, straight onto the board. Beautiful and crispy. Almost one of the best bits is the sounds of the potatoes. Got my fish. Got one loin bit, one belly bit, and then everyone's favourite, got these beautiful crispy batter bits. This is our traditional beer battered pollock with triple cooked chips.